Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the three core financial statements. My goal is simple. By the end of our time together, you'll not only get how they work, but you'll be able to look at them and know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, no way, right? Well, think of it like this. In the business world, companies are those airplanes, and financial statements, those are the critical instruments right there on your dashboard. They're telling you your altitude, your speed, and maybe most importantly, how much fuel or cash you have left in the tank to keep those engines humming. So with that in mind, let's check out our flight plan.
All right, here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the income statement. Then we'll move on over to the balance sheet. And after that, the cash flow statement. And to wrap it all up, we'll have a quick little quiz just to make sure all these ideas have landed smoothly.
So let's start with a really simple way to think about this. The income statement, it's like a video recording. It shows you the company's performance over a specific period of time, like a quarter or a year. Now, the balance sheet is totally different. It's more like a photograph, a single snapshot of where the company stands on one particular day. And the cash flow statement? Well, you can think of that as the ultimate reality check. It shows you where the actual cash is going.
Okay, let's dive right in with our first stop, the income statement. Now, its whole purpose, its ultimate goal, is to answer one simple but super important question. Did the company actually make a profit? All right, so the journey down the income statement always starts at the very top with what we call the top line. That's your sales or revenue. From that number, we subtract the direct costs of whatever you're selling. We call this the cost of goods sold, or COGS. What's left is your gross profit. But we're not done. Next, we subtract all the overhead, the selling, general, and administrative costs, or SG&A for short. And that brings us to a really key metric for profitability. And that metric is EBITDA. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it stands for earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Now, you hear this term all the time, and there's a reason for it. EBITDA is super popular because it gives us a pretty good idea of a company's operating cash flow. It helps us compare the core, nuts and bolts profitability of different companies on an apples-to-apples basis, stripping out things like how they're financed or what their tax situation is.
So once we have EBITDA, getting to the famous bottom line is pretty straightforward. First, we subtract depreciation and amortization. These are basically non-cash charges that account for the wear and tear on a company's assets over time. That gets us to EBIT, or earnings before interest and taxes. Then, you subtract the interest the company pays on its debt, which gives you EBT, or earnings before tax. And finally, you take out the taxes and voila, you've arrived at the bottom line, net income.
Okay, so we've watched the video with the income statement. Now let's hit pause and take that photograph with our second statement, the balance sheet. Remember, this is just a snapshot. It tells us exactly what a company owns and what it owes, but only on one specific day. The whole thing, the entire balance sheet, is built on one single unbreakable rule. It's the fundamental accounting equation. Assets must always equal liabilities plus shareholders' equity. A great way to think about this is buying a house. The house itself, that's your asset. The mortgage you took out from the bank, that's your liability. And your down payment, the part you own outright, that's your equity. See how it works? The numbers always have to balance out.
So on one side of that equation, you have the assets. This is literally everything the company owns that has value. We usually split this into two buckets. First, you've got current assets, things like cash or inventory that you plan to sell soon. Basically, anything that's expected to be converted to cash within a year. Then you have non-current assets. These are your long-term things like buildings, machinery, what we call property, plant, and equipment, or PP&E. These provide value for many years to come.
Okay, now for the other side of the equation. This is what the company owes to others and what the owners actually own. First up are liabilities. These are the company's debts and obligations. Think of accounts payable, which is money owed to suppliers, or long-term debt from a bank loan. Whatever is left over after you subtract all the liabilities from the assets, that is the shareholders' equity. It's the owner's slice of the pie. And hey, look closely. See that line item called retained earnings? That is the sum of all the net income the company has ever earned and kept. And that is the crucial link that connects the balance sheet right back to the income statement.
All right, on to our third and final statement. I like to call this one the ultimate reality check, the cash flow statement. Why is it so vital? Because here's a secret. Under formal accounting rules, profit does not equal cash. You can be profitable on paper but have no money in the bank. This statement cuts through all of that and tracks the actual, real cash moving in and out of the business.
So this statement is broken down really nicely into three main parts.
First, you have cash flow from operating activities. This is the cash that comes from the company's main day-to-day business. Think sales and expenses. Second is cash flow from investing activities. This tracks the cash spent on or received from selling long-term assets, like buying a new factory or selling off old equipment. And third, we have cash flow from financing activities. This is all about the cash flow between the company and its owners and its lenders. So think issuing stock or paying back a loan.
Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky, but it's super important. To really get cash flow, you have to understand how changes to assets and liabilities impact your cash balance. Just remember these two golden rules. Rule number 1, an increase in an asset is a use of cash. Makes sense, right? If you buy more inventory, your inventory asset goes up, but you had to use cash to buy it. Rule number 2, an increase in a liability is a source of cash. This one feels a little counterintuitive, but think about it. If your accounts payable goes up, it means you haven't paid your suppliers yet. You're holding on to that cash longer, so it's a source of cash for you in the short term.
All right, we've made it through the big three. We've covered the mechanics of the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow statement. So now, let's put that new knowledge to the test with a quick review quiz, just to lock in these concepts.
Okay, question number 1. We've kind of hinted at this along the way, but let's spell it out loud and clear. How do these three financial statements actually link together and talk to each other?
The answer is that they're all connected in this beautiful self-contained loop. So follow me here. First, the net income from the very bottom of the income statement flows directly into the retained earnings account on the balance sheet. At the same time, that same net income is the starting point for the cash flow statement. Then we use changes in the balance sheet accounts like inventory or accounts payable to adjust that net income to get to our true cash flow number. And for the grand finale, the ending cash balance from the cash flow statement becomes the cash number on the next period's balance sheet. And just like that, the loop is complete.
All right, here's a classic question you might even get in a finance interview. Imagine you could only look at one financial statement to figure out if a company is healthy or not. Which one would you choose, and why?
For this one, the best answer is almost always the cash flow statement. And here's why. A company can look super profitable on its income statement, but still go bankrupt if it isn't actually bringing in cash. The business world is littered with examples of companies that had plenty of sales, but failed because they ran out of cash. The cash flow statement cuts through all the accounting rules and assumptions and just shows you the money. Because at the end of the day, cash is the absolute lifeblood of any business.
Okay, let's follow that up. Let's say you get to choose two financial statements. Now, which two would you pick and why?
This is a bit of a trick question, but the smart answer is the income statement and the balance sheet. And the reason is pretty cool. If you have the income statement for a period and you have the balance sheet from the beginning of that period and the end of that period, you have all the information you need to build the cash flow statement from scratch. You can do it all yourself just by looking at the changes between the two balance sheets.
Okay, time to roll up our sleeves and get a little technical. This is a really common way to test your understanding. Let's walk through how a $10 increase in depreciation expense flows through all three financial statements. And for this, let's assume a 20% tax rate.
Okay, let's trace the money step by step. First stop, the income statement. The extra $10 in depreciation reduces your pre-tax income by $10. With a 20% tax rate, that means you pay $2 less in taxes. So your net income, at the bottom line, goes down by $8. Next, let's go to the cash flow statement. We start with that net income, which is down by $8. But remember, depreciation isn't a real cash expense, so we have to add the full $10 back. So -8 plus 10, that means your cash from operations actually increases by $2. Last stop, the balance sheet. Let's see if it balances. On the asset side, your cash is up by $2, but your property, plant, and equipment is down by $10 because of the depreciation. So 2 minus 10 means your total assets fell by $8. Now for the other side. Your retained earnings are down by $8 because that's tied to your net income. And look at that. Assets are down by 8 and equity is down by 8. Everything balances perfectly.
All right, last question. What happens when a company buys $10 of inventory and it pays with cash? How does that flow through? Well, first, the income statement. There's actually no impact at all right away. That $10 doesn't become an expense until the company actually sells the inventory. Second, the cash flow statement. Here, buying inventory is a use of cash, so your cash flow from operations goes down by $10. Simple as that. And finally, the balance sheet. Your cash account goes down by $10, but your inventory account goes up by $10. It's just a simple swap of one asset for another. So the total asset number doesn't change, and the balance sheet stays perfectly in balance. And there you have it. You've just taken a full tour of the cockpit of corporate finance.
Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you can take this knowledge and use it with confidence.